So again, bonding is an important concept to understand. Again, whether it's the bond of we the people for our legitimate national government or our state government, but if they go outside of the mandates that are placed upon them by our organic law, which would include the Constitution, but if they go outside of the organic law, then the bond of we the people does not apply. That's why
Okay.
we would have no liability.
So I want to put this into context at this point
Okay.
for viewers.
All
Okay.
right.
So right now we have like about a list of 10,000 indictments for, uh, we're presuming there's uh, congressmen, other people who take oaths, other people who have scope of office. So can you put this bond into context? They're being indicted. They're going to be probably, because this executive order gives President Trump the authority to create military tribunals. That's different from what we're talking about here.
Well, we don't
Military,
know. We
I don't
don't know because we have not seen those.
know. Okay.
I don't know how they're written, so I really can't comment on something I have no knowledge of.
Okay. Very fair enough. But we are dealing with violations of these oaths. If they're taking bribes, if they're acting.
It may be that we don't know.
No,
We don't
I'm
know.
speculating because I'm trying to put this in
Okay.
context. So I'm speculating that if these people are convicted, if the congressmen are convicted in taking part in bribery, kickbacks, racketeering, conspiracy, child, exploitation, trafficking, anything like that, this is huge. It would be huge. And then what would the bond? How would that?
I don't know. It may be bonded by we the people. I
Okay.
haven't seen them. I don't know what they are. We say indictment, but that's a loose term.
I
I
understand.
haven't seen one, so I don't know what the bonding is on it. But if they are legitimate and properly construed, those indictments would be bonded by we the people.
That's what I was asking. So how would those,
Uh-huh. I just
how
don't
would they
know.
use the bond? Well, in theory, I'm asking speculating. In theory, by what you know, how do you think it ought to work? I'm not saying that that's how it's going to work, but
Well,
speculate what happened.
I believe.
Mm,
Okay, this is my belief that these are going to have to be adjudicated and bonded by we the people in order for us to drain the swamp and move into something new. I mean, I would not, even speculate as to. I mean, there's what 10,000 of these indictments they claim running around here. There's no insurance company on the planet that could have enough money to bond that. It has to be bonded by we the people. That's my opinion.
So let me just take
So,
it one step further.
okay.
There's not enough money on the planet that could pay out a claim for conviction of all of these 10,000. Well, I'm not saying all 10,000 are bonded individuals, but or that have scope of office. But in the context of what we're talking about, in the context of bonded individuals with scope of office, these bonds are insured. This would absolutely bankrupt the insurance industry.
Yeah, if they had to pay the claims,
Right.
but there won't be any claims paid on it because if these indictments are valid, there's no insurance claim to be paid.
Yeah, there should be because we
Bonds are
haven't.
in place to protect the court in case they make a mistake. If
Right.
there's no mistake, the bond is good and is not paid out.
Right, but they're making, oh, so this is for the judicial proceeding. Well, no, but we're talking about for the people who, like congressmen, have their own oath of office.
Well, that's true.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the oath of the individuals, not the courts. I'm talking about the individuals who
Yeah,
have,
but the indictments, what I'm talking about, we haven't seen the indictments, so we don't know
no,
what the
okay,
bonding is on the indictments. I suspect,
okay.
it's my opinion, that these particular indictments are bonded, by we the people.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, they don't need an insurance company involved in the thing because the insurance companies are just as corrupt as the people they're indicting.
Sure.
But in any event, when this quote unquote executive order come out about martial law, which technically suspended habeas corpus, so these people couldn't use that.
Mm-hmm.
All these things are being enforced by the military,
Mm-hmm.
and so these individuals will not receive a judicial trial. It will be a courts martial.
A court martial. Yeah.
Yeah, and in a courts martial, what would be looked at basically is treason. And the penalty for treason is what? Firing squad.
Yeah, death penalty. Treason.
Could the military do that? And the answer is yes, they could. I mean, we start talking about guns and clubs. I'm trying to explain to you, the military has the biggest guns and the biggest clubs.
Right. They just have to be on the side of we the people.
Yeah, and so the speculation is that in fact that the arresting officers for these indictments will in fact be the United States Marine Corps.
Yeah, right. Very much so. Well, the National Guard was called out.
Well, the National Guard was sent down there basically to sweep the floors and cook the meals.
Keep an eye on.
It's the Marine Corps that runs Gitmo.
Right. It's a special place for these people. Gitmo.
It's really special.
Yeah.
But in any event, to carry through with what you're talking about as far as these particular indictments, which is only speculation on my part.
Okay.
I believe that these indictments, if they're proper, would be bonded by we the people, because it's we the people who are in fact enabling these things to happen.
But we're also injured by it. So.
Well, we have been injured by it. That's what these indictments are all about.
It's very complicated because, so we the people are responsible because it's supposed to be a representative government. And when people are not involved in that process, then they're allowing it to happen. But then they're also being harmed by it. So it's a very, it's 22. It's a very sticky situation to be in there.
So in essence, we the people are enabling the Marine Corps to go and make these arrests. It's not Trump. It's we the people. That's the way that it has to be legitimate.
Right. And it would have to be there. Then that means we would have to be operating under a representative government now.
Yeah.
Which means the rumors, I'm just saying the rumors that there has been a republic in place for quite some time, although it's not been officially announced. It would be true
there was an interim republic put in place in January of 2015 under General Carter Ham.
Okay.
Since January of 2015, we have had an interim republic.
Okay.
So how that relates to Donald Trump, I'm never quite sure, because we don't know what goes on in the background. But General Carter Ham was in fact the interim president. And we haven't heard much from him lately. But what's going on in the background, I don't know. They won't tell me.
Well, this is just, so Donald Trump is just the biggest showman right now, although he may be making a lot. I think he may be. I'm still speculation, but he's definitely a great deal maker. I think he's very smart, and
put all that aside. Now, after the Electoral College met and cast their vote in favor of Donald Trump, the rumor was that Trump did not wait until the inauguration to take the oath of office.
Right.
I suspect that he did take an oath of office. Hopefully, it was the Article 6 oath.
Article 6.
Hopefully.
Right, two different kinds.
Hopefully, because the Article 2 oath just makes him the CEO. That's all it does. And so we don't know what went on in the background. In other words, after the Electoral College, did Donald Trump take the place of General Carter Ham? We don't know.
Okay, good question. Excellent question. But these are important questions.
Well, yeah, they are.
Questions, absolutely, because it all affects how these military tribunals are going to be handled.
Yeah. Again, go study history. Did Carter Ham have the authority to do what he did? And the answer is yes. Ever since the Civil War, we've been under military occupation and the conduct under military occupation is the Lieber Code. Go read it, and then you see that Carter Ham did in fact have the authority to go and do what he did under the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all these kind of things. And so in January of 2015, we had a new interim president of the Republic, not of the United States Incorporated, of the Republic. Then all of a sudden we got all excited. We went and had a great big election, a popular vote, and everybody's going around, like crazy people. And then finally we had the Electoral College, and then all of a sudden we got this character known as Donald Trump, who's a businessman, which is okay. I don't care if he's a businessman or a carpenter. I don't care about that. But what I am trying to figure out is that upon his electoral majority, and he took an oath, is he operating under that oath at this present time? Did he replace General Carter Ham? I don't know. They won't tell us. But I would suppose that to be the case because I watch how Donald Trump acts and what he does.
All right.
So I would have to suppose that, there was some franchise or whatever, between him and Carter Ham about what the outcome was going to be.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, you got to put all the pieces together. And because people don't know how, things work, they come up with all kinds of wild speculations about this, that, or the other. And,
yeah,
and so it goes crazy on the internet. And you listen to all the comments and articles and things that people are saying, and there's nothing but tomfoolery.
The internet is the place to go crazy. People go crazy with things for sure.
Yeah, but what we're trying to do, at least today and in the times past when we've had these country road reports and that kind of stuff, is to give the basis by which you could judge what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so the conversation today has to do with, what has been and what is proper in regards to government, legislatures, laws, and bonding, and all these kind of things. So because once you understand how things ought to work, then you can look at the situation that we're dealing with this interim government with Carter Ham and Donald Trump, and you can draw some conclusions that might be correct. Might be. Let's put it that way. Because again, when you start putting together the pieces of the puzzle, you have to find a place to put every piece. And so you say, okay, if this is what's happening, what occurred in between then and now to cause that to happen? And so all of a sudden we got the quote unquote commander in chief out here running the U.S. Marine Corps is going to go out and arrest a bunch of criminals. What justification does he have to do it so? Is he acting upon the voice of we the people, or is he simply acting under the Lieber Code? I don't know. They won't tell us.
Well, right now it's an executive order, so.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
Well, what would give that executive order any weight that the military would strap on their guns and their helmets and go out and do something?
Have to be under we the people, which is why he's not taking. It has to be under we the people.
That's the conclusion I've drawn. Yeah.
Yeah, because the military, can only act. I guess. Hold on a second.
No, they can act under military occupation under the Lieber Code.
Right.
I'm just saying, how does this correlate with what Donald Trump's doing? That's the question. Yeah. And so, knowing all this history and knowing the procedures and so forth, I'm able to draw certain conclusions based upon proper procedure, scope of office. You see what I mean? That's why I talk about all these things, so people can put things into perspective instead of all this crazy stuff that goes across the internet. It's all ridiculous.
Right. So I think the corporation, it's possible that the U.S. corporation has been dissolved because of the bankruptcy, and so he is acting as the head of probably took over from Ham. That's kind of my... Maybe.
We don't know, but...
No, I'm not saying we're reporting this for a fact. I'm speculating, as you said, based on observation of what he's doing.
Yeah.
But, again, it's speculation. Okay.
But, again, we have many commentators on the internet and so forth that
he has an opinion.
Within the limits of knowledge that they apparently have,
Mhm.
They are drawing logical conclusions based upon what information they have, and so am I.
Right. They're
But
doing that.
maybe I have just a little bit more information. For instance, I understand bonding, I understand liability, and all these kind of things.
Right.
And so just maybe with more information, maybe my speculations are just a little bit more sound. That's what I'm trying to imply here.
Indeed. And can you take off the screen share while we're having this
Oh, I'm
conversation?
sorry.
Just so it's okay, just so our viewers can just see our faces because they're just staring at the words and they really kind of read it 100 times already. But no, this is speculation, but we have to be able to. There, it almost there was a rumor, and you're saying the internet that Dunford was the head of the Republic. Was there any truth to that you know of, or was it
I
totally
don't know. See, uh, General Carter Ham was of the Army.
ah,
And he was not Joint Chiefs of Staff, but he was, I don't know how many stars he had, but apparently he was put in place with the approval of the Pentagon, the Joint Chiefs, and so forth, because they represent the Army, the Navy, Air Force, and Marines.
right?
And so with that collaboration of all these military entities, then apparently they picked Carter Ham to be the interim president. And I forgot who the vice president was at that time. There was another. I think he was also Army,
Interesting.
which is appropriate because again, it's the Army that runs on the land. The Navy's on the ocean. Marines are just part of the Department of the Navy. The Air Force used to be a part of the Army. So in the beginning, we just had two services, which was the Army and the Navy. Now we have, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and whatever
Right.
else
Right.
there might happen to be. But in any event, it was appropriate that the Army step forward. And so they put an Army general in as the interim president. And I think it was an Army officer also who was the vice president. Now, they're the ones that got this whole thing started. Because again, this is an international operation. Because when Carter Ham took over or became the interim president, he didn't have any money. How's he going to operate with no money? He can't go to Congress and have them vote him any death currency.
Right.
So in that event, and I got this straight out of Asia. I got this information coming to me straight out of Asia, and I won't say who was gave it to me, but in any event, I was informed that the Chinese elders supplied to General Carter Ham and the interim republic the equivalent of 200 billion in gold bullion, physically. And apparently that gold bullion is now being guarded on an Army base in Texas. Apparently that's the case. I haven't seen it. I don't know. But in any event,
Texas.
and also at that point, the Chinese elders gave them a bank account that had 385 billion in cash in it.
Whoa.
So they have operational expenses without having to go to the U.S. Incorporated Congress to get the money to operate.
Right, because the representative government didn't have any money.
They didn't have anything. Okay, so now all of a sudden they got gold bullion, so now they can become Basel III compliant, and so immediately they went and created something known as Treasury Reserve Notes.
Treasurers, there
That's
you have it.
That's government money,
Yeah.
and it was trading on the stock markets and stuff as early as the summer of 2015. The TRNs have been trading ever since 2015. They got a gob of money now. The interim government's got a gob of money.
Good.
Now, as I had reported in that one article about the two-tiered money system, we have the Treasury Reserve Notes, which is government money, and then we have the United States notes, which are, money for, working on the street among people for commerce and all those kind of things. But we have all these things that started right there in January of 2015, for crying out loud. And my Asian sources at that time were telling me that we expect that the new United States notes will be for use by at least October of 2015. Now, what in the hell has happened? It's taken us 2 years to get around to the point that they're finally going to issue the new United States notes. Well, we're cleaning the swamp. We're maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just telling you the history of what happened. Now, it's interesting that after all these things happened, they had to get rid of Martin Dempsey. Martin Dempsey was causing all kinds of problems with Hillary
Right.
because, again, like that last report I showed you,
Right.
they tried to steal my appointment and give it to Martin Dempsey. And
Right.
based on that appointment that Martin Dempsey thought he had, him and Hillary were concocting all kinds of crap.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing they had to do, the Congress did, they got rid of Martin Dempsey as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And then they put in General Dunford as the chairman. Now he was operating because there's no information available.
Right.
I don't know what his relationship to Carter Ham is or was. I simply don't know.
This will be very interesting to see really how they, and
If they
maybe
ever find tell us.
and they may have even done something, they may have even created something new. They may have found some way, and Saint Germain might have whispered in their ear how to, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, but we tend to forget how this whole thing started in January of 2015 and what was done to facilitate it.
Okay.
And so again, here we are down almost to 2018, still playing tiddlywinks with this whole process, and getting a lot of us pretty upset with them. I mean, that one fellow's putting together a RICO suit against them because they're screwing around.
Yeah.
They're screwing around. They're playing politics with what should have been.
Right.
Now, there has been some rumors of galactic intervention with some of these things.
Right.
Whether that's true or not, I can't affirm. They didn't come by my house and talk to me about it. I mean, if the Pleiadians come, they didn't stop by and say, well, here's what we're going to go do. So I don't know what they did.
Right.
But it appears that because of the, dilly-dallying around by those who had the responsibility to bring these things into effect, it appeared that somebody from the Galactic Federation showed up and said, okay, we're tired of your BS. Here's what's going to happen. And if you don't do it, we're going to take you off the planet. We have had a few removed off the planet because they simply were, dilly-dallying around. Now, don't get me excited or I'm going to start cussing again, so I'm trying to be real careful.
I know, I get you riled up. All right, sorry to get you all riled up there, Winston, but it's good because, this is what it's about. This is what we're here for. We're here to straighten this out, drain the swamp, and understand, we need to move forward in a completely different direction. This is, really the eve of a new year. So we're going to be, so why not have this conversation now and understand where we've been and where we're going and what we need to understand and learn so that we can understand where we've been, just the words you use to start the program out, and how not to repeat that.
Yeah. And so, like I say, it appears to me, I listen to all the different things, everybody's saying across the internet and reports, and even your POTUS report, I try to listen to as broad a spectrum of different people and different points of view as I possibly can. But one thing that does concern me is that we're down the road down here and we forgot what happened over here. So I don't hear anybody talking about Carter Ham. I don't hear anybody talking about that gold bullion being held in an army base in Texas. I don't hear anything about how that $385 billion was spent. I don't hear any of that. I'm not privy to it. Mm-hmm. But then we see other developments, and so we start to speculate, well, because of what we actually do see, then we interpret and say, well, here's what must have happened to cause this over here.
We have to infer, exactly.
Yeah, and so again, it's pretty hard to put all the pieces together. And like I say, I'm not privy to all the secrets that go on and everything. Maybe someday we will find out exactly how all of these things happen. But in the meantime, we just have to, do the best we can. So the best I can do is try to educate people about correct procedures,
right,
so they can identify when something is being done properly, and also identify when it's not being done properly, because if it's not being done properly, then we need to deal with it. That's what I'm saying here. But if you don't know what's right, then you can't do anything about it.
Winston, I think this conversation has been very helpful. I think our viewers will appreciate that. I'm really trying to, and I think the viewers get an idea that I'm really trying to help them understand the difference between the two statuses of government, and with our conversation today, you're helping them to understand that more, and also really who's accountable. There's still some question marks, but we have the general gist of what ought to happen, and that's what you're talking about. So we appreciate you helping us understand this very much. Yeah, very, very much. But that also falls
like
under equity. What's going to happen with this commerce once the new republic is officially announced?
Well, okay. First off, I don't know what founding documents this new republic is going to rely upon.
Okay.
Certainly, we're not going to move away from our organic law. Your organic law is not the Constitution, folks. It's corpus juris secundum. It's American, jurisprudence. That's the organic law. Because there's no law in the Constitution, for crying out loud. It's not a law document. Everybody running around, yelping about the Constitution and everything, and they don't even open up corpus juris secundum to see what the real law is. So again, people need to become a little bit informed and so forth, and not rely upon leaders and politicians who are as ill informed as they are.
That's right.
Scripture says, when the blind lead the blind, they both fall in the ditch together.
Don't they?
So we're trying to get people out of the blind status, perhaps, into understanding a little bit of these concepts, so they could properly judge what they see actually happening. And if they see something that's wrong, then they need to object to it, either individually or collectively and so forth. Say, hey, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not going, and you're not going to do it either. But we're going to do it, the proper manner. And so, but you can't do it in the proper manner if you don't know what the proper manner is. And so that's why we have education to demonstrate some of these things. That's all.
Well, I think what you said is people have been trying to do this individually, and with varying degrees of success. And so I think that collectively, this is why we really have to spread this information. Collectively, the power is in numbers. So I think that ultimately we have to have a voice, but it has to be a collective voice. And how ironic the far left agenda was to, create more division among us. To keep us from doing exactly, think about it, folks. I mean, they're keeping us from uniting and having that one unified voice, which would be much more powerful. So don't fall into the social engineering traps of people who don't have your best interest in mind, because they've been succeeding at doing this. This is really, leading the sheep into the slaughterhouse. And this is where we've been, truly. Yeah. And so
I hadn't particularly wanted to go down this road, but as much as it came up, I started into my rant and rave about it. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but so let's run into this situation with bonding, so people will have some basic concepts they can rely upon when they start to think about this. Now, we have talked about bonding by the voice of we the people, which is one thing, but when you get into corporations and so forth, then we have to have a different kind of bonding to protect the innocent. Now, this is one of the major concepts that you have to understand. The bonds are in place to protect the innocent. You cannot put a bond in place to protect a criminal or a criminal act. Okay. The insurance companies will not pay off on a criminal act, for instance, some act that was committed outside of the scope of office.
Exactly.
And that's why I've tried to illuminate this concept about a benefit of office and scope of office, because again, our corporations have to run on bonding, for liability and so forth. And then one of the ways that they've tried to get around this particular issue is what's called state risk management or self-bonding. It don't work. You can't bond yourself. It has to be an outside source. And so all this business about, well, we're self-insured.
Yeah, right.
I almost slipped up and said a bad word.
Yeah, I was going to too. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So again, sometimes if I get excited, I start talking construction language. But I try to not do that. But anyway, let's just quickly let's run through some of these issues. Like I say, I'll send all these articles to you.
Okay.
And then if people inquire about it, you can have it on hand, or if they inquire about me, I can
Okay.
share it with them also.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you go off your presentation there. It's just that
No, it's good.
people need
It's
to
good.
understand this in the context that they can relate to, and it was important for me. I think it was important for them. So go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, we got good old easygoing Winston and easygoing Louisa here to get us all excited. God only knows what we're going to say. Anyway, let's look at this one article here. Let's see, which one was it now? Oh, I think it's this one here.